At Inugo, as I mentioned, one of the things we do is we do virtual tours. So today I wanted to talk to you about some of the features that we recommend you pay attention to when you select your virtual tours, because not all virtual tours are created equal, and there's more and more features that are coming out. And I want to talk to you about some of the use cases for how to use those potential features. So one of the beauties of using a virtual model home is that you don't necessarily have to get it right the first time, right? When it comes to physical model home, you spend so much money and you pray to God that you got your ideal customer avatar correct, and that all that merchandising, all that money that you spend on a physical model, that you get it right so that when that customer walks through the door, they fall in love with it. Well, with virtual, it's a little bit easier because you can create different versions of that virtual tour to appeal to different customers. So virtual really allows you to broaden your exposure by tweaking colors, furniture that would appeal to different demographics, different groups. So this is a great example of a passive virtual model. So one of the features of a passive virtual model home, and what I mean by passive is that you're not interacting here, right? It's a video. So basically it was a virtual model home and we shot a video of that. So as a customer, this is very eye-catching. So a great example of usage would be on social media. Include that dip link so that it takes them directly to that model home. But one of the features that I do want to talk about is interactivity. It's one thing to be able to passively observe what is on the screen, but it's another to be able to actually become a participant in the virtual model home. So this is an example of a virtual design center where you can actually change colors as you go through the home. So instead of just touring a generic model home, now the consumer is able to select their colors, select finishes, and they're really able to visualize themselves in that space. Because again, what may appeal to me may not necessarily appeal to you or to somebody else. But if you give them that option to change it on the fly, now I can see myself in this, I can see my style, and so I become more emotionally invested in watching the tour because I'm actually, again, interacting with it, and I'm more likely to make that buying decision as I'm able to customize it. So the first thing is, when you're considering virtual model tours, consider interactive. Again, there's a use case for passive for sure. Again, as I mentioned in social media, that's a perfect example of it. But once you actually take them to your website, give them that option to interact with it. And interactivity really makes a big difference because when they're interacting, they're becoming engaged, and that leads to higher conversion. So we see that on average, when you provide interactivity, average session lasts about 16 minutes online, which is 7 times an industry average. So that's huge. So if you can keep them interacting, if you can keep them engaged, they're going to spend more time on your website, and that's a goal. We also see lower bounce rates and more conversion. So one of the reasons why you have a higher conversion there is because now as a consumer going through the process of customizing their home, maybe I want to share that with my spouse, right? Because when you're buying a home, you're not making that decision all by yourself. You're probably going to share it with your spouse, friends, realtor. So you have an option of sharing that information with them and saving your favorites. So obviously when they save the favorites, it's going to ask them to register. Therefore, it leads to higher conversion. So we see higher registration there. Another example of a feature that I want to show you guys is ability to customize, so ability to personalize a home. We know that most of new home shoppers buy new construction because they want to be able to customize their home. So that's very important, but one of the challenges is that most people have trouble visualizing those options. So in this interactive model home, you have an option of showing different potential options that your consumers can select. So as they go through a model home, instead of just touring, again, a generic model home, they are selecting those options on the fly, and they're seeing exactly what the home is going to look like with that option. What I love about this is that I wish I had this when I sold homes, because it's not just a great online tool, but it's also a great tool for your salespeople to use in person when people actually do show up to the model home. That's feature number 2, is consider offering personalization. People love that. I mean, right? It's house porn, right? I mean, people love looking at beautiful pictures of the home, and what's better than to actually see yourself living in it? And they spend hours and hours playing with those selections online, making it their own. And so when you're utilizing these visual assets, one of the things we see is that because it's digitized, it cuts back on any human errors, right? Instead of sitting there making selections by hand on a contract, they are making those selections on their own in the comfort of their own home. So we see that you save a ton of time for your salespeople. Your salespeople are actually paying attention and spending time with your consumers where it matters, not necessarily going through the options where they can do that on their own. And we also see that the take rate for options goes through the roof. So it's anywhere between 30 up to 40% we've seen increase in option take rate when you allow somebody to make those selections on their own. And one of the best things with interactivity is that it generates a load and load of data, really, really valuable data, because every single action is recorded on the back end. So you can see what your consumers are doing online. You can see that most of your consumers have selected those blue cabinets and not the gray cabinets or not the white cabinets. So it's great because you can see not only what that individual consumer is doing. So now for salespeople, that's a great call to follow up, right? I saw that you were on our website looking at lot 42 at Verona model, and you chose those color combinations. So they have something to talk about, because most of the time your salespeople, they don't want to follow up because they don't know what to say. So now they know exactly where the customer is in their journey, so they can have those easier conversations. And all of that data is being recorded on the back end. So not only can you see that data on the individual level, but you can also see trends. You can see, hey, it seems like white cabinets are out. Everyone's selecting those wood stained finishes. So you're able to pivot. You can pivot very quickly because you can see those trends. You can see all that aggregate data on the back end. So back to what I was showing you, the passive video of a model home, right? We recorded a virtual tour, turned that into a video, served it to a customer on social media. Customer was attracted to that. They clicked on it. Now they're interacting with the model. So now I get more data. I can see that this customer would actually prefer different color cabinets. So I'm going to record that video now with the most popular color cabinets that I see most of my consumers choosing. So now I'm going to re-record that video, serve it back to them. Now I can see that my conversions are going to go through the roof because that resonates more and more. And so it's kind of like a flywheel, right? I get more data. I can take that data, create virtual tour with that, record the video, serve it to my consumer, and on it goes. So it's a flywheel. So just to recap real quick, when you're looking at virtual tours, consider making them interactive as opposed to passive. Offer personalization instead of just touring a generic model home. And it gives you smart content, right? So it's smart because it collects a lot of data on the back end as opposed to dumb, where it's just static, generic. You're not really getting a ton of information out of a virtual tour that's generic because you can't really tell what they're engaging with versus when they're customizing that floor plan. So thank you.